Hello, everyone. Welcome to SportsBeat on WOUB. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jake Collins, your host for today, and joining me at the desk is
Jamey Spears,
Schmitt,
Evan Johnson,
Jack Zwiezinski.
Plenty to talk about from this past week. Let's take a glance at today's topics. Starting with football's close battle against Ohio State in Columbus. Then soccer picks up a big win in the MAC opener. Meanwhile, volleyball has entered a losing streak. Men's basketball releases its full schedule. Plenty of stories across both pro and college football. And then we end the episode with Upset Watch and our weekly awards. SportsBeat starts right now. Guys, welcome back to the table. Let's first talk about the Bobcats' trip to Columbus. Ohio put up a great fight against the reigning national champs, that being Ohio State. Luke, what happened in Columbus on Saturday?
Well, it was just a crazy game. First off, I was there with my sister and my aunt who went to OU, so it was fun being in the shoe, not as an OSU fan for one of the first times that I've been there, but man, it was such a cool environment. Like after that Chase Hendricks touchdown in the third quarter, I mean, the vibes were high, but yeah, it was just a great showing for honestly both teams. I think that Ohio State, they kind of started off kind of slow a little bit, but OU also showed what they needed to do, and also they just played really well on both fronts, I think.
Yeah, and for the game, Ohio State did win 37-9, but the game felt a lot closer, Luke. What were the Bobcats doing both offensively and defensively that worked so well for them to stay within striking distance up until pretty much Hendricks' touchdown right there?
Yeah, Jake, especially in like the first half, it really looked like the Bobcats defense is just bottled Julian Sayin and the OSU offense. Like especially in the red zone, we saw how clutch that defense was, and there's a guy we'll get to later who was a big part in that, but it really just looked like they kind of had the Buckeyes scared a little bit. They had them on their toes, and we saw that kind of go away a little bit in the second half. Buckeyes started to really open it up, air it out to Jamey Spears, but I really think that they kept that pressure in that first half that made it such a low-scoring game and made it so close in the first.
Yeah, and I think the aspect that the Bobcats did really well was the red zone defense. Yeah. And, of course, the name that we have to talk about on defense is Adonis Williams Jr. For anybody at the table, I mean, what was Adonis Williams' impact like, not only in the red zone, but just in the game in general? I mean, he was like the quarterback of the defense making plays out there.
Yeah, I mean, he was all over the field. I mean, we're talking about not just any team like a top FBS school. Like, this is the best team in the country. Like, Jamey Spears, I think, is the best player in all of college football. And in that first half, Adonis Williams was, I mean, like you said, he was navigating the secondary. I mean, Tank Pearson on that goal line fade to Jamey Spears, punching the ball out. I mean, it was just beautiful work from the secondary, especially in the first half. I think with the defense as a whole, something that surprised me was how well they matched up physically. When you're going against such a good team, you're going against all these 5 stars, all these top guys, it really felt like our lines were holding up well.
Yeah, and another, like, to go back to Williams' impact, I mean, he was just a monster out there. And, of course, he just proved out there why he's one of the captains of this team. Being able to just run downhill and pretty much fill any gap within the run defense. I mean, there was that one drive, it was on Ohio State's second field goal, where he saved touchdowns on back-to-back plays. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were open field tackles, and he also blew up C.J. Donaldson.
That was a hit.
That was an amazing hit. But, of course, another aspect within this game, Luke, I mean, in that second quarter, we saw Parker Navarro go down with an injury. Yeah. What happened, and what was the impact like that, and how were Ohio able to stand out with Nick Poulios as the backup?
Yeah, once Parker went out, it was just apparent, kind of the momentum they had up to that point kind of trickled a little bit. It was still a close game, but losing a quarterback like Parker Navarro, who's played so many years for your team, he had a full season of reps last year. He's played really well in the first 2 games up to this point. So just losing a captain like that in the field is such a tough draw, especially for a MAC team that's going up against a OSU team like this. If you're a Power 5 team, your backup, they might be able to step up and do something. But, man, it was tough out there for the backup. He just looked, the pass rush, and this is such a big emphasis for this OSU defense. They just had him bottled up. Like, I highlighted a specific drive here in the third quarter, or actually the first drive of the fourth quarter for the Bobcats. You have a Bangura rush for -1. He ran it again for +3, and then Parker got sacked and -7 yards generated. So that just truly shows, I think, kind of what the offense was dealing with the entire night. I think it just shows how dominant that front was, how they just weren't giving anything in the run game. They got to the quarterback and put pressure on him like almost every play.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I think the biggest struggle right now with this Bobcats team is pass protection. I think just because, and I believe a couple of the linemen were also hurt a little bit throughout that game, but we saw it in West Virginia. That pass rush just tore up that Bobcat pass protection. And we kind of saw the same, especially with a more athletic and more talented Bobcat defense. Do you guys think that is the main focal point that needs to improve for this Bobcat team?
Yeah, I think so 100%. I think the difference with the other games from OSU is when you have weaker defenses, Navarro can work his magic in the backfield. He's used to slipping these tackles, and when he has pressure, he scrambles out, makes some crazy throw on the run, or he takes it himself for 20 yards. When you're playing an Ohio State defense, they were not letting him slip through any tackles. As soon as they got a hold of him, he was down for tackle for loss. So I think that with now you're getting into MAC play, obviously you have Gardner-Webb first, but once you're getting the MAC play, that O-line maybe won't seem as big of an issue just because Parker Navarro is making it look like it's not an issue.
Yeah, and they played the most talented, like the toughest non-conference schedule thus far. I mean, 3 Power 4 teams. But in terms of the game, kind of going back to the Bobcats, were we worried at all in terms of the secondary in that second half? Is that alarming going forward for the team in the regular season, or do you think it was just Ohio ran out of gas and they're playing against the best receiving core in the country?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate absolutely torched the secondary in that third quarter. I mean, you really can't do so much about that just because those are top 5 recruits in their class, and they came into Ohio State and they showed it last year. Carnell Tate showed it really good against Texas the past 2 games they played. So I think that OU, they shouldn't really be worried about that. I mean, you just have 2 of the great receivers in the country. So I don't think that's a big deal.
And speaking of great receivers, we got to talk about Chase Hendricks. I mean, just looking at it statistically, he's number 9 in the country in receiving yards, only 2 less than Jordan Tyson and 3 than Jeremiah Smith. I mean, those are top guys, prospects in this year's draft. He's really come into his own in these first 3 games this year, and he's just been Parker's go-to guy. I mean, we saw that in the 67-yard touchdown at early on in the third quarter. So I just think he's going to be such a big player this year. I think he's going to be like the Coleman Owen of this team this year, and I would not be surprised if he starts to fly up some draft boards a little bit.
Do you think he'll reach higher levels compared to Coleman Owen? I believe Owen was like an 1,100-yard receiver.
He was setting program records. Coleman Owen was the dude.
And Hendricks was just, a receiver last year. I think he only had 1 receiving touchdown and maybe 30 catches and 500 total yards, but he is already on his way to passing that, probably on pace to do it by week 6. Guys, do we think he could kind of be that record setter at the wide receiver position?
I don't see why not. I mean, the way he makes these contested catches, I mean, it's not like he's wide open on all these plays. He's making tough catches, and as we saw on that touchdown, it's yards after the catch. He's breaking multiple tackles. It's truly incredible what he's doing right now.
Do you guys think that was one of the best plays in Bobcat history?
I don't know where else you would go with that, but for me, for sure, that was one of the best. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's probably top 3. The only play I would say competes with that is the game-winning interception against Pitt 20 years ago when they first set the record for attendance at Peden Stadium. But now we're going to look forward. Guys, Gardner-Webb, Luke, how should Ohio handle this game? This is kind of something where Ohio has struggled against FCS opponents.
Yeah, we literally talked about it on the show last year at this time, where we brought up kind of how they just can't really seem to put them away early. We look last year, they won most of their games. Like, they beat Morgan State 21-6. They beat Long Island 27-10. And then there were some weird games against Fordham and Duquesne before that. So they have a weird history with FCS schools. And I think coming off of a 3-game stretch of, literally 3 you have West Virginia, Rutgers, and OSU. So coming off that and then going to play an FCS school, I think there might be some shock. Just because you're playing against some tough offense and defense, and now you're kind of you're back home, and you've got an opportunity to really, it's a reset game, I think, for them.
And do you think, like, how will Ohio take care of business? Do we expect maybe some backups to come in, kind of give some of those starters a rest? I know DJ Walker was hurt a little bit with an injury in the late stages of that game against Ohio State. Of course, we're still concerned about Parker's hand. How are Bobcats going to handle the rotation in this game?
Yeah, I would hope that this is the game where you kind of look at what worked and what didn't. I think what they really need to hit on is the run game, because we saw how that was kind of stopped a little bit against Ohio State. So reinstilling their faith in Bangura and the run game, I think, will be a big part of this week, especially if Parker is still day-to-day, according to Brian Smith. So getting a lot of those, getting that run game going, also looking at some backups. But I think that's fully dependent on the scoreboard. I think if they play them close, then obviously you still want to keep your starters in that game.
Yeah. So Ohio expecting to win this game, but it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. Just like you mentioned, the history of them playing against FCS teams hasn't been that well, but it's going to be an interesting storyline for this Saturday at 3:30. Now for our next segment, Ohio soccer is back in the win column after winning their MAC season opener against Central Michigan. Evan, how did the Bobcats perform in their conference opener?
Well, they got the first MAC win of the season, 1-0 over Central Michigan. Celeste Sloma, her third clean sheet of the year. She won MAC Defensive Goalie of the Week. Just a great performance from the Bobcats overall. They finally didn't let that early goal that just cost them the entire match. So that was great to see. And the offense is still, I think offense still has a lot to improve on, but it was definitely good to get that first MAC win out of the way.
Yep, and then it was Quinn Tostavin who was able to fire, I believe,
30-something yards is what it was.
Like nearly 100 feet. And in some way, shape, or form, the goalie kind of played it a little bit poorly.
Mistimed the jump.
Yeah, definitely mistimed the jump. But regardless, Ohio was able to strike first, and they protect their lead. But in terms of just this game, like you mentioned in the notes, actually, Evan, that they only had 11 shots and only 5 of them were on goal. Is there an aspect or maybe a unit within this team that you think needs to improve as they, progress into conference play? Is it the attackers? Is it the midfielders? Mm-hmm. Is it the defenders? Is it goalkeeping? What is it?
It's the midfielders. They're struggling to move the ball right now, and there's a lack of creativity in the middle of the field, and that is largely due in part to Eve Barish being out for the season. She filled that role perfectly, and she kind of led the entire team in that way. And without her, this team has struggled with just getting the ball past midfield, setting their attackers up in the right way, and I think that's where the lack of offense has started around. Obviously, as you keep progressing throughout the year, they've been getting better, so I think they'll start to figure it out here soon.
And what were the adjustments that Coach Aaron Rodgers and the Ohio Bobcats made in that second half? Because Central Michigan had 7 shots, and they only had 1 in the second half. What adjustments were you kind of able to see from that game?
Well, I feel like I feel like I'm getting deja vu every time I watch an Ohio soccer game. It's a little slow for the first half, but then that second half, something like switches in their mind, and they just really lock in. And I think it's less of a schematic thing, and it's more of a mentality thing, because Coach Rodgers has talked before about he doesn't really change a lot at halftime. Like, they stick with the game plan. They don't usually, completely change the defense or offense, but it's a mentality thing, and I think if they were able to start with that and play a full 90 minutes, that these scores would start being more 3-0, 4-0. You'd see more goals and better sheets.
Yeah, and of course, like you mentioned, Ohio wins the MAC opener. They start off conference play 1-0, and they have a huge matchup for their next game. That's going to be against Bowling Green, and pretty much the winner of this game kind of takes control of the top seed in the MAC standings. What should we expect from Bowling Green and Ohio in this game?
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of the goalkeepers. Bowling Green has been one of the top teams in the MAC. I don't think they were really almost talked about being one of those top teams preseason. They were 4th in the preseason poll, but the way they're playing to start this season, this game could have implications down the line. So this is a must-win for both of these teams. Bowling Green 6-1-1 on the season, only lost against a Big Ten opponent, Illinois, and every game has been close. But I think the goalies are going to be the deciding factor on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another 1-0 or even a draw like a 1-1.
And do you think Bowling Green has kept any bad blood? Because remember, Bowling Green's season ended by the Ohio Bobcats last year in the MAC tournament. So what are we expecting? Do you think BG has some bad blood? Do you think they have a target on the Bobcats' back?
Oh, 100%. They definitely want to get revenge for that game. The Bobcats have won the last 3 against Bowling Green, so I think the Falcons feel that they're due a win here, and that they think that if they can beat OU to start their max play, that they'll be in a great spot towards the end of the year.
So you mentioned midfielding is the unit that you want to see progress. Who's going to be that person within the midfield that should show out in this Bowling Green game?
Well, I would like to see it from senior Jamison Brooker. I mean, she's kind of been more on the attacking front at times, but I think at her spot, usually on the left, I think she's been in this role before. She has the experience, and I think if she can step up her game a little bit more, that this team will be able to thrive off of that, and they'll be able to be more of a collective unit. It kind of feels like a lot of individualism right now.
Yeah, and this should be an exciting
game.
It's gonna be a fun one. This is a big-time soccer game for both teams. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. But the Bobcats actually have another game on Sunday against Akron. What does that matchup look like?
Akron's looking a little different than Bowling Green. Akron's going to be sitting towards the bottom of the MAC. They were picked last in the preseason poll. So I think this could be a game that the Bobcats can take advantage of, and they can keep, hopefully, their momentum going, assuming if they get the win over BG, or if they lose, that would be a great tune-up game that at this point in the season, if you're not starting to hit your stride, you got to fix something. So I think that would be a really telltale game of how they perform against Akron, where they truly are at in the season.
It's going to be an exciting couple games for the Bobcat soccer team. Thank you, Evan. But now we're going to jump into volleyball. It was a tough outcome at the Dayton Beaver Creek Invitational. Jamey, what happened to this volleyball team in Dayton?
Well, they played 3 tough teams. Ohio State, number 7 ranked Pitt, and Wright State. They lost. They didn't even win a set the whole weekend. But you have to look at the bigger picture. Wright State, one of the best mid-major schools in NCAA in volleyball. Pitt, ranked 7th in the nation for a reason. They dominated Saturday against the Bobcats, but you can't really expect anything different. Their only losses are against the number 1 team, Nebraska, and Florida, which is, I think they were ranked 19, but they only lost 2-3. So it's not even that bad. So I think Pitt is a really good opponent for the Bobcats. I think they needed to play them. I think that it will be good for them to just get that experience that, hey, they're about to go to MAC play after this weekend. And the best thing that I think that OU has done this year is with their freshman Bailey Blair. She led the team in kills every single game besides Wright State, where she only finished with one less kill than the leader.
Yeah, and another freshman's impact, you mentioned freshman. We've also talked about Maddie Long. So Bailey Blair and Maddie Long continue to just be this 1-2 punch on the attack. And then you have some of the more veteran pieces like Kendall White. And I think the just biggest concern that I took from this weekend was Ohio only lost 1 set by a couple rallies, and all the other 8 sets were by blowouts. Do you think that's alarming at all for any of the fans of the volleyball team? I mean, what's your feedback on that?
I think it's hard because you look at the non-conference opponents, especially last weekend at the Beaver Creek Invitational, and you just play the number 7 team in the country. Like, you don't really expect, you're a mid-major school from the MAC. You don't go out there and just expect you to win and keep every single set close. And so I just think it's hard. I don't think it's alarming until you get to MAC play, so you kind of see like where you're coming from and kind of what the MAC teams are made of this year. So I wouldn't be too alarmed, but I just think that you play the three tough teams in a weekend. That's gonna be a challenge for everybody.
And I think the part that just sticks out, I think they would be able to give Wright State more of a fight if Wright State wasn't their 3rd and final game. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Pitt's now a top 5 team in the latest rankings. I knew they weren't going to, like, nobody knew that they were going to be able to compete with a team that talented who plays that many talented teams as well. I mean, they played like 6 ranked teams so far up to this point. But now I guess let's go into this upcoming weekend. It is their final non-conference weekend. Ohio has yet to leave a weekend series with a winning record. Who do they play, and how can the Bobcats get it done this go-around?
Well, they play Maryland Eastern Shore on Friday early in the morning, and then they play Charlotte later that day, and then they finish it out with Furman. They're playing Eastern Shore the first game, and they're 2-8 on the season, so they really need to like build up a lead like early so they can just have confidence. I mean, confidence is key whenever you're going into these weekend matchups. I know it seems pretty cheesy, but in reality it is. And I think they'll be able to like carry that momentum to play Charlotte that Friday night and play Furman that Saturday to finish the weekend series. I think Friday night will definitely be a big test for the Bobcats. They play 2 games in one day, like I just mentioned, and Charlotte's a really good team. They've only lost 3 games all season, or 3 matches all season, and then they rounded up the weekend with Furman, who just like Charlotte, right there, 2-loss team. So I'm hoping they can get that first win against Maryland Eastern Shore and kind of like build off that momentum and win maybe even 2, even 3. They could win. They could go out there and sweep them because they're just mid-major teams. They're not like the Wright States. They're kind of just like average, I would say, right now. I know they're 2 and 3 loss teams, but their schedule hasn't been very tough like OU's has. So I think having those games or matches against Pitt, Ohio State, and Wright State will definitely shape them up for this weekend.
Yeah, and a young team, and it was quite a learning experience for them. And let's see if the volleyball team could end their 4-game losing streak as they take on Maryland Eastern Shore on Friday. But now to kind of get into our next segment, we haven't been able to talk about them because they're not in season yet, but OU men's basketball has released their schedule for the 25-26 season, 31 regular season games from early November, beginning with Arkansas State, and then ending with Miami, Ohio in the Convo. Guys, if you look at the schedule, what is that non-conference game are you excited to see? Is it St. Mary's? Is it Louisville? What do you guys think?
I think it's got to be St. Mary's. I think you're going to look at Louisville and think, oh, ACC team, which is also really cool that you got to play those teams back to back. But St. Mary's has been in the tournament, several years in a row. They have always have one of the best defenses in the country. I believe OU's going to St. Mary's. I mean, you're going cross country, so that'll be a cool experience for them. And I think that's just going to be, that's going to be one of the best mid-major games of the entire season for all of college basketball.
Yeah, and then we also see other non-conference games. They've always done the Sun Belt Challenge, and the MAC in general has struggled in the Sun Belt Challenge. And for them to open up the season against Arkansas State, who I believe was a contender in the Sun Belt as well, it's going to be a very entertaining matchup. But I guess, what is our expectations for this team? How many wins are we expecting? Do you guys have a range? Like, what should fans expect from the Bobcats for this upcoming basketball season?
I really think that they've always been in the past few years, like kind of like the middle of the pack in the MAC. I think they'll be right around that, but I think they will still get into the MAC tournament. I think they have a chance to go far, but will they? That's like the biggest thing. I know we're still a month or 2 out from college basketball starting, so it's going to be hard to say now because we really haven't expected or we haven't seen them, but I think they'll still be right around to like the middle of the pack to higher range.
Yeah, and I think the challenge with this team that's going to be different is they kind of underperformed last year.
Yeah,
compared to expectations, I believe the AP poll or even the MAC voters had them as the best team, and they finished middle of the pack, like you mentioned, Jamey. And they lost a lot of veteran pieces. I mean, there's no A.J. Clayton. There's no Elmore James. But one piece we're getting from the transfer portal from Toledo, Javon Simmons, who is going to be an absolute baller. Evan, do you think he's going to be that X factor for the Bobcats this year?
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the best player on this basketball team. He already has the experience. He's going to have the threat down low. There's really not another guy on OU's team that's going to be a huge threat in the post. So I think he'll be a guy that shocks a lot of fans or people that don't know about him coming into this program.
And when it comes to MAC tournament, or not MAC tournament play, but just even games like, the big games against Toledo, the big games against Miami, for that season finale against Miami, what do you guys think the stakes are going to be like going into that game?
Well, I think going into that game, just looking at it, you're hosting them. You look at Toledo, you're hosting them. You look at Miami, you're hosting them. Those have been kind of their challenges the last couple of years, teams that have really battled with OU down to the wire for the MAC standings. So I think playing them in the Convo, one of the really regarded basketball stadiums for college basketball, I think that's a huge help. And we don't even know what end of February, March will look like for the MAC standings, but I think just hosting those really dominant teams towards the end is going to be a huge advantage for the Bobcats.
Yes, absolutely, Luke. And I think another factor that I kind of like about this schedule more than what they dealt with last year it seemed like they had a bunch of tough invitationals against other mid-major programs. And kind of this year, they're kind of like inviting teams to Athens, kind of like as tune-up games. Like we see games against Ohio Wesleyan. We see games against a Miami, Ohio regional campus named Miami Hamilton. So like there's a lot of tune-up games, and I think this is going to be very beneficial. And they also have a shorter break between conference play and pretty much that Christmas break area. I think they had 2 weeks off last year, and they started off a little slow. And now they only have a week. So now it's kind of like they should be able to kind of stay in that groove more. But it's going to be fun to see what this men's basketball team does. I'm excited for them and can't wait to see them start in November. But now that's going to be it for Bobcat Athletics. Let's dive into the NFL. Jack, we saw a big-time matchup. It was the rematch of last year's Super Bowl in the first meeting. What did we see in this rematch?
I mean, this game was a lot of fun. 2017 final score as the Eagles kind of ended up taking it at the end. It's their third win in a row against the Chiefs since the Super Bowl in 2022. I just thought that was an interesting thing to throw in. Mahomes was playing well, but he had some trouble with Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy out. He had some trouble finding some targets. You know, his weapons were a little questionable. They weren't all there. But this Eagles defense can't be understated. I mean, they stepped up. They hit Mahomes 10 times, had 4 pass deflections, and a crucial interception in the fourth. So, I mean, Mahomes was sacked twice for around 15 yards. Looking, at least statistically wise, both teams were very even. Jalen Hurts was also sacked twice for 14 yards, a lot of things like that. Rashee Rice out with a suspension and Xavier Worthy with that shoulder injury in the first game. There's optimism I've been seeing that he could be back around week 3, but I'm not fully sure about that yet. They looked fairly even, and I would not be surprised at all if we see these teams again come February. I mean, Philly's setting themselves up to be a powerhouse in the NFC.
Yeah, they're almost like building a dynasty at this point. I mean, they have really not missed a step since their Super Bowl win. But in terms of it's kind of surprising to see the Chiefs 0-2. I mean, we've seen them be so successful in the past couple of years, and now they're quickly 0-2. Granted, those were 2 close losses. But Evan, did you have anything to add about this game?
I just need to get some other opinions here. Are the Chiefs just bad at football now?
No.
Are you sure?
I don't think so.
I don't think they're winning the AFC West this year.
I would agree with that.
I think this is the first year. Like I think the Chargers are putting up a fight. I don't think the Chiefs are that good at football as they used to be. Obviously not as they used to be, but 0-2, like I don't know. They haven't looked great.
I don't expect them to make it in the Super Bowl again, but other than that, I still think they have the potential to break through into the AFC Championship. I mean,
they just keep declining. It feels like.
Yeah, it is declining, but it also is like
the eye test.
injuries.
The eye test.
Pacheco hasn't looked as good as he did last year, so that's another tricky thing.
I was gonna say I would say that the Chiefs are 0-2, but with the biggest asterisk you can imagine next to it. I mean, they're down 2. Pacheco hasn't looked great. They've been struggling a little bit. I think as the season goes and they'll start getting some of their weapons back, we'll see them into that.
But in past years, it's been the close games that the Chiefs win. They're able to win those games. That's what makes them great is they always find a way to win these close games, even when they don't. Now everyone's playing at their best, and now they're not. So is that going to be something they start losing all the one-score games?
I think they need to establish the run. I mean, when Patrick Mahomes is your leading rusher, like you're not going to win games. I hate to say it to them, but Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco need to do something. They need to figure out a run package so they can get them going, set up the play action, and like this game should not have been 20-17. I feel like it should have been a higher score.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles' defense is absolutely amazing, but the Chiefs' offense is pretty good when everybody's healthy.
And I think just the biggest problem with this team, like you mentioned, is the run game. I mean, they're lacking it, and I don't know if it's just, Hunt's getting older and Pacheco's coming off an injury. Like, that is the biggest challenges for this team. I still think they're a contender, but it's going to be something we have to follow now, week by week. I mean, the Chiefs are 2 games behind in the AFC West, and that's good for the Chargers. But, Jack, quickly take us through some of the other games from this past weekend that were pretty important to the slate.
All right. I'm not excited to talk about it, but Browns-Ravens, it has to be done. Final score, 41-17 Baltimore at Baltimore for their 30th year anniversary. The Browns talked a lot of trash. I talked about that last week. I said I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I know exactly how I feel about that now. I will say Grant Delpit talking about Derrick Henry's not hard to tackle ended up aging pretty well, because we got to talk about the Browns defense. I mean, they're considered number one in the league at the moment. They held Derrick Henry to 23 yards on 11 carries and Lamar to 13 yards on 2 carries. They lined up first and goal, and I watched 4 downs go by where Derrick Henry did not sniff the ball, which, I mean, I'll take that, and it's looking like there's a possibility Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah comes back. He posted something last night or yesterday on social media that seemed like he was waiting his time to return. The rookies for the Browns stepped up. Quinshon Judkins looked really good for no preseason, no training camp. I wasn't expecting him to get 10 snaps. I figured he'd be on a little, or at least 10 carries. I figured he'd be on a little bit of a limit, but he got 61 yards out of 10 against this Ravens team, so I'll take that. Isaiah Bond didn't see the ball a whole lot, got some rushing yards in. Harold Fannin has looked amazing for this team. I think we'll start seeing him and Njoku out there more at the same time.
Yeah, and the Browns, of course, they have another big-time matchup this week against the Packers. Packers just beat the Commanders on Thursday night, and, hey, me being a Packer fan, this is a good look.
Are you thinking Super Bowl?
I
think you got to be thinking Super Bowl. This team looks great.
NFC.
At first, I'm just thinking the Packers need to focus on NFC North Division.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the first thing. Take it one thing at a time. But now to go to another game, Jamey, I'll go to you. Bengals and Jags. This was a pretty darn good football game. What'd you see as a Bengals fan?
Well, the Bengals won. I mean, that's the best thing ever. 31-27. But Joe Burrow, he really looked good, like, early on. I mean, he was doing everything right. Great. Jacksonville scored that first touchdown, and then they got the ball back and threw a pick in the end zone, which the Bengals defense, I know they give up a lot of points, but they're looking really good early. I feel like they are doing what they need to do. Unlike last year, they would give up 55 points, and the Bengals would only score 52. That's just not what it is, but then everybody knows Joe Burrow got hurt. But
yeah, well, we'll go into that more. But keep going with this game.
But Jake Browning did very, very well. He threw 3 interceptions, but he led almost a 90-yard game-winning drive, 2 fourth-down conversions. Travis Hunter, we're gonna say that was a defensive pass interference, but I don't think it was. I think that was really good defense. But Jake Browning got it done for the Bengals. They are 2-0. I don't think I'm worried.
And specifically for the Jags, I want to talk about one player, specifically quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He has not looked that good. He has flashes where he looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but I'm not seeing that growth within the past couple years compared to what many expected. What do you guys think at the table?
I think it's his receivers. If you've seen it,
Yeah,
they dropped so many
Brian
balls.
Thomas does not look good.
BTJ just dropped that fourth down conversion, which led to that Cincinnati game-winning drive with Jake Browning. So I don't think it's on him mostly, but I do think Trevor Lawrence needs to just lock in. They have a tough game this week. It's in the AFC South. So I think that he can do better, but I also think he needs a little bit of help, too, from his receivers.
Yeah, absolutely, and specifically in pass pro as well. But other games that we need to talk about, of course, we'll quickly go through Cowboys and Giants. That was a highlight game. I mean, that was pretty impressive. But in terms for this upcoming weekend, Jack, what is the biggest game that we're going to see from the NFL slate on week 3?
I think the biggest game we're going to see is Rams at Eagles. I'm really excited for this. The NFC divisional playoff rematch. Philly won 28-22 last year. We're getting 2 2-0 teams coming in. Only one's walking out undefeated. Philly won last year, but we have to mention the fact that Saquon ran all over LA last year. I mean, he had 4 touchdown runs that were all 60-plus yards. I don't know if that's happening again if you put him last year against the same team. I mean, this Rams pass rush is dangerous. You got Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner. They all had almost 29 sacks last year. Haven't done a lot this year, but, we're only 2 weeks in. The Eagles' O-line is still incredible, so I'm excited to see the big fellas get active in the trenches. I think that'll be so much fun. You got to take into account as well, Stafford's been playing well. They added Devontae Adams. Him and Puka Nacua are just a nasty duo. Stafford knows when to hit him. They stay on the move. A lot of pre-snap motions going in. I think Puka Nacua's 8 catches of his 9 were involved the pre-snap motion. So I think this should be a very fun game.
And Jack, I think it'll be even more exciting just because that playoff matchup you talked about, it was just coming down snow all game. I mean, Saquon, he ran for 26. He had 26 carries. Kyron Williams had 19 carries. So I think this will be a fun game just to see them maybe air it out a little bit more with better weather to see, really how explosive those quarterbacks and weapons they have on offense is.
And, of course, the main storyline, it being a playoff rematch, that's just going to be another fun aspect. We saw Philly do really well in the Super Bowl rematch. Let's see if they could replicate it in the NFC divisional playoff rematch. But for other games throughout the week, for the Ohio teams, we see the Browns. They'll invite the Packers. Cincinnati has a backup quarterback duel against the Vikings. And then other games like the LA Chargers hosting the Broncos. And then Monday Night Football between Lions and Ravens. But now we're going to go to our next segment, Read and React. Jamey, of course, you mentioned it earlier. Starting quarterback Joe Burrow will be out for 3 months due to turf toe injury. It will require surgery. And, of course, that occurred in the second quarter. So for you being a Bengals fan, how will this affect the Bengals' playoff chances going forward?
It won't affect the Bengals' playoff chances going forward. What do you expect me to say? Yes, it will? No. I think the Bengals' offense is really good no matter if Joe Burrow or Jake Browning's the quarterback. It's not like Jake Browning, this is his first game as a Bengal, and he knows nothing about the offense. He's been the backup for the last 3 years. So he knows this offense. He will be able to get some confidence. I think this week they face a good Vikings team, but the Vikings also have a backup quarterback as well because J.J. McCarthy's hurt. So I think this week will be a real good test for them just because you kind of see if Jake Browning's built for this. You'll see if Jake Browning can lead the Bengals to be in that playoff contention. And if Joe Burrow comes back, which he will be in 3 months, it'll be exciting to see if the Bengals are in playoff contention. And I really think that the Bengals will be in playoff contention.
Jamey, I'm sorry. I don't think that. They played the Jags and Browns too close with Joe Burrow. I don't know where they'll be when he comes back. I don't think that they'll be I don't think they'll be at the bottom of the conference. I think they might be teetering around 500 at that point. I just think it's really going to come down to how much, Chase and Higgins can help Browning at receiver, and also just the defense to just step up, which has been kind of inconsistent so far.
And I think the one thing that the Bengals do have going for them is Browning has a winning record as the starting quarterback for the Bengals in the games he's played in, but it's just the concerns of, he's a gunslinger. We saw a lot of giveaways in the Jacksonville game, but we also saw that he could drive the team down the field in the final minute and get the game-winning touchdown at the goal line. So he shows a lot of grit. And it's going to be weird to see how the Bengals do for this for the games leading forward. Guys, another thing, we got to go back to that Super Bowl rematch. The tush push and the Philadelphia Eagles have reached new headlines and controversy this week. Luke's already laughing, but of course this occurred when Fox Sports role analyst Dean Blandino told commentators Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady that he was simply done with the tush push, and he finds it too hard to officiate and follow throughout the play. This was out during a challenge where Chiefs claimed they had a takeaway, but with it being a rugby scrum, Bandino stated you can't even see the ball. What's our takeaway from this, guys? Are you guys done with the tush push? What's our feedback?
I'm not done with the tush push. I love it, but what they're talking about, that specific situations and stuff, is it's not cheating for the tush push, but if you're going to cheat while you do the tush push, they should be punished. They were going early. The Eagles just find any little advantage they can because of that reason that the refs can't really see towards the ball.
And I also think, Evan, just watching teams kind of do quarterback sneaks following the tush push, it's kind of developed, and it's really just made quarterback sneaks so much I don't know. Like, I see so many different variations of the tush push. I saw the Broncos did it against the Titans in week 1. So I just think you can't really stop the tush push because it's spread across the league, and it's just really made it easier for quarterbacks to kind of get that couple yards.
Yeah, I also want to say to Luke, Evan, I noticed that, I saw during the one against the Chiefs, it looked like most of their O-line was a little offsides, and both of their guards started early, which I agree with you. I think it's just because it's so hard to follow. It just devolves into chaos so fast.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're seeing, like, the Broncos try it. I've seen the Bills try their hand at it a few times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it really doesn't. But I feel like at this point it's so – like everybody's trying to get in on it that I feel like it's almost going to be really hard to ban it now, or like to try to ban it.
Yeah, and of course they tried to ban it over the summer, so it's just like you either can or you can't do it. Eagles could do it week in and week out, so it's going to be I don't like Blandino's comments. I love the tush push. I'm with you, Evan. I think it's just an awesome football play, but I understand why teams hate it. I understand a little bit where Blandino's coming from, that it's kind of hard to follow, but in my opinion, there ain't no way that was a takeaway by the Chiefs anyway. I mean, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But other news, Dabo Swinney went on a rant at Tuesday's press conference. Swinney addressed critics after their 1-2 start, and he pretty much said, hey, if Clemson's tired of me winning, they could send me on my way, and I'll go coach somewhere else. He also added, we've won the league in the 8 of the past 10 years. Is that not good enough? So, guys, the seat might be getting a little warm for Dabo, but we can't deny it. Clemson's prime has been built through Swinney. What are your thoughts on Dabo's comments?
I think we owe our friend Connor Mallon an apology because before week 1, he went on this whole rant, hating on Dabo. And Dabo's been terrible. I mean, the Clemson as a whole has been terrible this year. And when you're talking about, tired of winning, you haven't really actually won anything the past couple of years. That's cool what you did in the past, but people only care about what's happening now, and they're not winning right now. So I think Dabo has to be on the hot seat because he refuses to adapt to the new age of college football.
I also think the issue is that, he said he's won the league in 8 of the past 10 years. He's talking about the ACC. The ACC, which has kind of taken, I don't know, some slander maybe just to being a weaker conference compared to the SEC and Big Ten. So, I don't know, maybe if this was a different conference like that, I don't know. I think he's on the hot seat. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's kind of – Clemson fans should be worried if he's talking about the past more than what just happened. You know what I mean? But to now go into our college football segment, we just mentioned Clemson lost to Georgia Tech on a game-winning field goal, so that was like the major upset of the weekend. But, Jamey, we had plenty of other great matchups, specifically in the top 25. What did we see?
Yeah, my favorite game of the weekend was, I think it's probably all of ours, was Georgia Bulldogs versus Tennessee Volunteers. This game went into overtime, and Georgia ended up winning 44-41, but Gunnar Stockton performed really well, 304 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, 23 for 31, and Georgia just did everything right. I know it was a close game. I think both teams did good things throughout the whole game. Tennessee's Joey Aguilar had 2 interceptions, so that was kind of what brought Georgia back into the game, as Tennessee was up 21-7 at the end of the first quarter. So I think Tennessee, they shouldn't be worried either, but I think Georgia might be one of those top teams in the SEC.
I was about to say, I think Georgia might be the best, but I was just as impressed with Tennessee in this game.
Yeah.
I was probably honestly more impressed with Tennessee than I was Georgia, just because Tennessee could show you they could duel with anybody, any of the top programs. I think it was surprising to see Georgia's defense get diced up. I mean, that's something we've never really been used to, especially in the Kirby Smart era. So I would like to see this be an SEC title rematch, honestly. But like you mentioned, Jamey, you said that Georgia's the best team in the SEC. What do you guys think?
I think it's LSU. I still think LSU's at the top right now. They have the experience. I mean, when does LSU not have a great quarterback? I think Nussmeier will end up being the Heisman, and I like Georgia. Georgia did great this weekend, but I still have to see more from them.
And another team in the SEC that's looked pretty good so far and just picked up a top 10 win was Texas A&M. How did the Aggies beat the Fighting Irish?
Well, they won because of a missed extra point. Well, it wasn't even a miss. It was a botched extra point for Notre Dame. They won 41-40. But, I think Texas A&M, I know it's growing. I always see it all over my Instagram, and it's Texas A&M 8-4, 8-4. It's every single year. So if I was Texas A&M, I think I would be really proud of this win. I know Notre Dame has played 2 tough games with Miami and Texas A&M, so they are starting out 0-2. I don't know how they're ranked 0-2, but I wouldn't be worried if I was Notre Dame because you just played 2, probably the best team in the ACC right now and a top 5 team in the SEC right now. So I wouldn't be worried if I was Notre Dame, but they won't make the college football playoffs.
You mentioned their tough schedule. Notre Dame and Ohio are the only 2 schools in the country to start their season with 3 Power 4 schools. Pretty crazy, but I don't know. We'll see with Notre Dame coming if they can start make their comeback. I think they still got to get better quarterback play.
Yeah, I didn't like how teams were kind of going after Notre Dame for being 0-2. Their point differential in their 2 losses is 4 points.
That's wild.
They've lost by 4 total points, and I think they'll get better as the season progresses. But I'm kind of interested in Texas A&M. Do we actually see them as a contender?
No.
No.
8-4.
I think the SEC
yeah.
8-4.
Oh, so you're following the 8.
I'm following the
Oh,
8-4 train. I really think they are. I mean, when you look at the SEC schedule, no matter what team you are, no matter if you're Georgia, you're Texas, you're Alabama, you are going to lose games, I feel like, this year. Like, if you asked me a few years ago, Alabama was going undefeated every single year. Georgia was probably going to go undefeated unless they played each other, and one of those teams would be 1 losses. I think this is a year where you could see even 2 or 3 losses to SEC teams, and I don't think there will be another undefeated season by an SEC school for a little bit.
Do we think Notre Dame's college football playoff expectations have been shot? Do you think 0-2 and they're done for?
Absolutely. Without a conference championship.
No, because of the conference championship, they're always going to get in because they won't lose on their conference championship week. 10-2, Notre Dame's not making the playoffs.
Yeah, but you lose to an 8-4 Texas A&M. I don't think that's
at the
possible.
time they're ranked team. You're playing a ranked Texas A&M school, an SEC school. If they win 10 straight, so with the voters' mind, we know how this works. If you lose right before the playoffs, you're going to get punished for it.
Yeah.
But if you lose at the beginning of the season and go on a 10-game win streak, they're going to be rewarded.
Yeah.
I kind of see where
I agree.
Jamey's coming from because if you look at the rest of Notre Dame's schedule, the best team they play is USC.
Exactly. So they're going to win 10 straight, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, they're 10-2. They look at Notre Dame. They've won 10 straight. They're going to go in the playoffs.
I don't know. I mean, 10-2, but if you walk into that final week and your only ranked win is USC and none of these other teams stick out. You got Purdue. You got NC State, Boise State, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. Like, these are they're pitting.
If it comes down to it, and you got 10-2 Illinois and 10-2 Notre Dame, they're gonna put in Notre Dame. There's not gonna be enough undefeated and 1-loss teams to put above Notre Dame.
Notre Dame just needs to join the ACC already. Like, look at all these ACC games. They just need to pick a conference after all this.
Yeah. And speaking of an ACC, we'll go to the next game. Number 5, Miami just crushed the Cinderella dream of South Florida. I mean, what'd you see from that matchup, Jamey?
I think we could see a Carson Beck for Heisman.
No.
I know he threw 2 picks, but 340 yards against, great, they won 49-12, but 340 yards against a college team and 3 touchdowns, only missing 5 passes and 2 of those being picks. I think Miami is definitely the front runner in the ACC right now, without a question. I don't think any team even comes remotely close to them, besides maybe Florida State. But who knows? I really think Carson Beck could have a chance to win the Heisman.
And I think Miami wasn't expecting this game to be a resume builder for their playoff chances, but with how South Florida played these first 2 weeks, it's kind of like, that does add something to their resume. Speaking of which, South Florida is still technically the front runner for that group of 5 bid. They are only, they have 83 receiving votes. USC had 105 to be the 25th ranked team. So South Florida is still that top group of 5 representative. So that's going to be something to look forward to. But what are some of the big matchups for this upcoming weekend?
Well, we've got Miami at Florida. We just spent a lot of time talking about Miami. Florida just lost to LSU, so that was a big game for them. But this is going to be a big game for Miami again. We just talked about how good Carson Beck's been playing. This is another test. You got a good Florida team who's kind of started a little bit rocky, but they're also in the SEC. They just lost to the third-ranked team in the country. So I think this is going to be a battle, and I could see either team pulling away.
You know what matchup I really like? Outside of that Miami-Florida game you mentioned, I kind of like this Indiana-Illinois game. I mean, 3-0 teams. They were teams last year that were kind of competing for a playoff bid. Indiana did make it. Illinois didn't. Evan, what are your thoughts on this game? Do you think this game's going to, display the talents for both squads?
I think so, and I think this will actually have implications for the playoff down the line. I know we talk about, it almost feels like a lock. Ohio State, Penn State are going to be representatives from the Big Ten in the playoffs. Last year we had Indiana in there, and I think Illinois this year is last year's Indiana, and I think Illinois will overtake them in that way. Pretty sure Indiana's favored in that game, which I think is crazy. I think this Illinois team is really good, and I think they'll make a statement in Bloomington.
Yeah, and another top 25 matchup I'm kind of liking too is Utah and Texas Tech because we don't know who's good in the Big 12. I mean, we don't. So this is kind of going to be that deciding factor. Utah is a 4-point favorite. Jamey, do you have anything for this Utah-Texas Tech matchup?
I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. You never know who's going to win the Big 12. I mean, that is the most crazy conference, I think, in the college football, just because every team could win that conference. I mean, you could be 1-11 the year before, but you can go out and be 12-1 or whatever and win your conference championship the next year. We've seen that emerge with TCU. We've seen Utah be close to the college football playoffs. We've seen all these teams from the Big 12 that have been good, but are they good enough to where they can make an actual run in the college football playoffs?
And one final top 25 game that we won't really deep dive unless you guys want to deep dive into it yourself. Number 22, Auburn, and number 11, Oklahoma. Still a lot of questions, particularly with Auburn, since they just rejoined the rankings. I mean, it's felt like 5 or 6 years since Auburn's been ranked. But I think John Matier and Oklahoma will probably take care of that matchup. But now we're going to go into MLB, and we got to chat about both Ohio teams. Evan, it seems like Cleveland has been the best team in September.
Oh, yeah, the hottest team in baseball right now. They've won 10 of their last 11, and if this isn't the most Cleveland thing ever, kind of staying mid throughout the entire season, and then at the end, ramping it up and finding a way to make the wild card. They're 2.5 games back. They're behind the Red Sox right now, so they still got a little bit to go with 2 weeks left in the season, but if there's any team to make a late push for a playoff, it'd be the Cleveland Guardians.
And their current series that they're in is against Detroit, who is the division leader. And Cleveland's kind of been owning that series so far in the regular season. I believe Cleveland has won 70% of their divisional games, and it feels like they only have that for the rest of the year as well. So not only can Cleveland steal a wild card bid, do you think it's possible for them to steal the Central title from Detroit?
I think so because you mentioned they're in the series right now. They go play the Twins and then the Tigers again. So if they're able to win that series, maybe sweep them, that they could possibly. But the last series,
The Rangers
are 3.5 games back. Cleveland's 2.5 back. That series is going to be crazy, and it's in Texas, so that's going to be a tough one for the Guardians.
Man, MLB couldn't script that really anything.
Guys, remember, there is MLB on right now, too. It's not just football. There's great baseball being played right now.
Evan, that'll be like a play-in game almost.
Basically,
because I mean, depending what happens, I mean, those two are neck and neck, so that series, oh my gosh, that's going to be huge.
And flipping it to the other side of the state, we've seen the Guardians perform really well, but the Reds, they have faded and they have fell hard. I mean, what has happened to them?
Well, I feel like the Reds are the opposite of Cleveland, where they kind of stay mid throughout the year. I mean, the Reds are only 3 games back from the NL wildcard spot, but it feels like they have not a lot of hope to make it. They kind of crash and burn towards the end of the year. It's going to be tough for them to jump the Diamondbacks and the Mets this year. So, I mean, they end it with 3 division opponents, Cubs, Pirates, Brewers. Maybe because the Brewers have already clinched, they don't really care about that series, and the Reds can steal some wins. But it's definitely an uphill battle, uphill climb for them to make the playoffs.
And the thing about it is that they got swept by the A's. The A's are one of the worst teams in the MLB right now. And being 3 games back, you sweep the A's because you needed that series. But nope, the Reds just say, you know what, let's just get swept by the A's.
Yeah.
So that was hard for the Reds.
And now we're going to finally go into our final segment before our weekly awards. Guys, it's Upset Watch. This is where each person at the table will predict their Upset Watch selection across any and all sports for this upcoming week. So far, we are not doing so hot. We did get one of our selections correct, but we are still 3-9 for upset watch selections this year.
33%.
Yeah, it is rough. Luke, I'll go to you since you got last week's selection. I believe you're the only person who's gotten 2 of them correct. So who's your upset watch?
My upset watch pick this week is the Cowboys over the Bears. 2 teams that really were in shootouts last week. Both defenses really just got domed. Jared Goff dropped 5 touchdowns on the Bears, while Russell Wilson dropped 3 on the Cowboys. I mean, it's just going to be a dogfight. I think for all these NFL games this week, it was really tough trying to pick like a clear-cut winner, and that's kind of my method when I go to these games. But I don't know. I just liked what Dallas has done so far. I really like how their offense has looked. CeeDee Lamb didn't drop a lot of passes last week, but Dak threw a lot of picks. But I think the Cowboys are going to be able to put the Bears away.
Evan, you got a college football pick for your selection. Who do you got?
I have Tulane over number 13 in the country, Ole Miss. They're 11.5-point underdogs. I think Tulane is the best G5 team in the country. Sorry, USF. They proved that they were kind of frauds. They had a great 2 weeks, but Tulane was kind of in that conversation at the beginning of the year. They got now wins over Northwestern, Big Ten school, South Alabama, who's a really good Sun Belt school, and then Duke. So, I mean, Jake Ratzliff is one of the best G5 quarterbacks. He's had over 500 passing yards, almost 300 rushing yards. He has 8 total touchdowns this year. So I think Tulane will be the 1 G5 school in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I think Ole Miss should be scared for Red because, I mean, we saw how good he was at BYU, and now, you kind of put him in an offense where he has to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like, night in, night out, and he could do it with his arm and with his legs. And Ole Miss has kind of been a team. I remember when Memphis was really good.
Yeah.
Like, they were like a top 25 team. Memphis would go into Ole Miss and actually compete with them and sometimes even beat them. We saw Tulane last year fight against a good Kansas State team at the time. Not so much this year. But Tulane's been really good against Power 5 schools, and I love this selection. I mean, plus 11.5.
Yeah, they've been knocking at the door. This will be their final breakthrough where people start to give them the respect that they deserve because they beat a top-ranked SEC school.
And Ole Miss just they were in a battle with Arkansas last week, and that defense did not look good. So why not a dual-threat quarterback, dice up the defense? Jamey, we haven't talked about WNBA much, but you were so confident on Monday that they were going to win Game 2, but now they got Game 3. Who are we talking about?
I got the Fever, Indiana Fever, over the Atlanta Dream. Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Mitchell. This girl has been unstoppable. She's probably top 3 in the MVP race right now. She averages almost 30 points a game. And just to watch her play, yesterday she went 4 for 8 from 3. That's 50%. You can't really get much better than this. But she also, against the Lynx, she went 4 for 5. She had 19 points, 27 points, 18 points in her last 3 games. If you can really get her and Aaliyah Boston I know they don't have Caitlin Clark right now, but right now those 2 are working really well. They averaged they had 19 points and 15 points in their win Tuesday. So I think if they can get the ball rolling, if Kelsey Mitchell can shoot just like how she's been shooting all season, I think the Fever will beat the Dream even with the negative or 7.5-point favorites.
And it just seems like the Fever continues to be resilient. I mean, this is a tough squad. Yeah. I believe they won the Commissioner's Cup, too, back a couple months ago. And they did it without Caitlin Clark, I'm pretty sure. Clark was out for most of that series. Without Sophie Cunningham. But the Fever, they are still fighting. I mean, this is a tough squad. So when Cunningham and Clark get back, I think this is a WNBA contender. And it should be a fun time. Jack, you are the final person for your upset watch. What is your selection?
I'm taking the Tennessee Titans over the Indianapolis Colts. The line is set in the Colts' favor at 4.5. I think the Titans can beat them, honestly. This Tennessee team showed a lot of flashes. We got a lot of stuff out of Cam Ward this week. I mean, he had it was like a 30-plus yard throw off the back foot. He's starting to step up. He's starting to click with his team, and I think we'll see them make strides. They lost, but it was to the Rams. I think that the Colts are going to start slowing down. They've been playing lights out recently, especially, Daniel Jones has been amazing for them, which is very impressive. I didn't think I'd ever be saying that. But I think,
Daniel Jones might be good at football.
Daniel Jones might be really good at football, guys. But I think eventually this is just gonna be unsustainable for this Indianapolis team. I think they'll start seeing steps back. I think they'll start slowing down, taking their foot off the gas, and I think that could start this week, and that's when we'll see the Titans really start to press down and be able to pass them.
And, Titans are the home team as well, and you just don't know what you're going to get from Daniel Jones. You don't know when he could play inconsistent or when he's just going to go out there and look like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. So I kind of like that. I think we have a set of games.
I like our odds.
I like our odds to maybe even get 2. We need to get 2 this week.
I think we're going perfect.
I think we're going for 4 for 4.
Hey, we'll
That'd
see.
be huge.
But finally is our weekly awards where we decide the SportsBeat game and player of the week. SportsBeat game of the week is going to be their soccer team's match against Bowling Green State. Of course, Evan talked about it earlier. This is going to be the first MAC opponent that OU will get to host. BG is 6-1-1. This is going to be a tough battle for both teams, and BG looks like the team to beat in the MAC. SportsBeat Player of the Week, we talked about safety Adonis Williams Jr. The captain made 9 solo tackles against number 1 Ohio State, and he was a force in the red zone defense and even in pass coverage. So that is our SportsBeat Player of the Week. Congrats, Adonis, for being our Player of the Week. Thank you for listening to SportsBeat on WOUB. I'm your host, Jake Collins, and with me at the desk is
Jamey Spears.
Luke Schmitt.
Evan Johnson.
Jack Zwiezinski.
You can find us on WOUB 1340 AM radio, online at woub.org/listen. Our episodes can be found on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram at SportsBeat WOUB for more digital content. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.